Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure that it has been an exciting morning for you all today, glued to your news, and to know about what the budget is like and how it has affected us. We are here to make it easy for you all, as with our experts who will be helping you understand what the budget holds for you and especially for the MSME and SME sector. So, without taking any more time, allow me to introduce you all to our experts today. I welcome our first expert, Mr. Siddharth Rastogi, the Managing Director for Ambit Investment Advisors. Siddharth has been with Ambit for over 8 years. Before joining Ambit, Siddharth has co-founded the IIFL Private Wealth and has set up a mutual fund and structured product distribution business IIFL. Prior to this, Siddharth has worked with multiple banks as their wealth advisor. I welcome you, Siddharth, today to our session.
Thank you, Mansi, and I look forward to having some great interaction. This has been a positive budget, this has been a transformational budget, and I'm sure from here, India's trajectory, reclaiming the fastest growth amongst all the countries in the world, can be achieved. And the biggest beneficiaries would be our 2.5 to 3 crore SMEs and MSMEs who are essentially the backbone of the economy. So thank you so much, Mansi, for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Now, our second expert today with us is Mr. Ratish Pandey. He's a business coach with Action Coach and the founder of Ethic Advisory. Now, Ratish has over 35 years of corporate experience in India and overseas in multiple management roles across multinational companies. As a business coach, armed with proven growth strategies from the world's number one business coaching company, Action Coach, Ratish utilizes his lifelong learnings and experiences to assist SME business owners in addressing their challenges and helping them achieve a higher growth. So, welcome, sir, to the session today.
Thank you so much, Mansi. It has been a fantastic morning indeed. As Siddharth mentioned, exciting times, and obviously the stock market has given it a big heads up. Siddharth and I were just talking before this call. I think the market has really welcomed the budget that the Honorable Finance Minister has presented. So let's see how things pan out. So I thank you again for inviting me here.
Thank you, sir. So before we start the session today, and we dive into the critical questions that are there around the budget and how it is potentially looking like for the MSME and sector for the coming year. I would also want to set some perspective here for our audience. You can put in the questions. We'll be asking certain questions around how it will look like. You can also type in your questions for everybody who's watching us on Facebook Live and on YouTube. You can type in your questions. We will try and take as many as possible. Now I'll quickly move into the questions that we are all first of all looking at. To start with, what is it looking like to you all for the MSME sector this time, and what are the major key takeaways that you all can highlight for our audience here?
Ratish, you want to go first?
Why don't you go ahead, Siddharth, and I will then follow up.
Sure. So, Mansi, very interesting point. You have mentioned that what's this budget holds for the SME and MSME segment. So, as I mentioned in my opening remark, that we have got nearly 2.5 to 3 crore SMEs and MSMEs, and because of the pandemic and earlier because of the implementation of the GST, and there have been constant reforms, the SME and the MSME sector has come under pressure. But this budget specifically brings about 3 places where they are able to ensure that they move up to speed, not carry the burden of the past, and start business afresh or get into the business mode. So the first, this happened when our finance minister gave the relief package for COVID. Almost 3 lakh crores was allocated to the SMEs and MSMEs for their financing activity. So they can raise easy money without collateral, and the government will back that collateral. So that was a transformational reform. But what is significant today in this budget is the privatization, not divestment, the privatization of the banks, especially the PSU banks. So keep in mind that SMEs and MSMEs have been largely dependent on the PSU banks, and PSU banks have been sluggish in advancing. And with the move, which has not been seen in last 50 years, with the privatization of the two PSU banks and IDBI, clearly the focus and the thrust would be to ensure that more lendable funds, more money can reach to the end customer, end user, which is SMEs and MSMEs. So that's number one. Number two, if you look at, which is again very transformational and not too many people will pay heed to it, is alternate arbitration dispute resolution mechanism. So till now, NCLT or any arbitration mechanism was only applicable to the large corporates. It was not applicable to the SMEs and MSMEs. And Finance Minister actually spoke about e-courts, alternate dispute resolutions for the SMEs and MSMEs, which means doesn't matter if I'm a small entrepreneur, because of the business challenges, because of the headwinds, I have lost money. I can come out clean, I can come out fresh, and I can restart my business. I do not have to carry the legacy of the past. So which is a very, very strong message which I thought brings. The third thing is the audit and compliance. So clearly what Finance Ministry spoke about is that the firms where they have 95% of their transactions being done digitally, 10 crores is the limit where they don't need to do audit. Also, since these SMEs do not have too much of income, and if their income levels are at 50 lakhs and if their dispute in amount is 10 lakhs and below, there is a dispute resolution mechanism, something like with Vivad se Vishwas, which was put into the last budget, somewhat similar, where it's a faceless interaction and a dispute resolution mechanism will emerge. So I think these three things clearly stand tall in creating a landscape for SMEs and MSMEs to do business with a single word: fearlessly. You don't have to fear that people will come after you if you are a genuine person and if you have genuine business losses. And that's the loud and clear message which the government of India has given. Barring lots of customs duty reduction, basic customs duty reduction, ensuring that the import duties on the steel items, so all those add to the competitiveness of the SMEs and MSMEs. The reducing the duties on the copper scrap, all those are positive steps. But I think those first three which I spoke about will stay for at least next half a decade in pushing the SMEs and MSMEs on a growth path, on a growth trajectory.
Great, great. Very nicely put and very nice, great points put forward. So Ratish, so what would you say on the same?
So just to piggyback on what Siddharth talked about, and I think Siddharth brought up some key elements that this budget entails. I would want to, I definitely want to take people back to, I think the day when demonetization happened and the MSMEs felt, hey, the world has fallen for them and everything, where will they get the liquidity and everything else that from there till now, I think India has moved many steps forward. Having said that, I'll also like to call on what Siddharth talked about, the first relief package that came about in late March, where 3 lakh crore package was announced with a slew of opportunities for MSMEs to really get access to funds. But to my knowledge and to my understanding, the biggest challenge continues to be access of funds, and that comes also on the fact that a lot of SMEs and MSMEs at times probably are not as organized or as digitized, and that is where I think the whole GST system would help them digitize themselves in a far better fashion, that they'd be able to access funds more easily. Having said that, I would also like to call on a large, and when I look at this budget is all about healthcare and infra, and there was a lot of talk before the budget was announced by a whole bunch of experts that why is the government not focusing on healthcare? And this budget truly, when the Honorable Finance Minister started talking, the focus very clearly was square on healthcare, what we have been battling for the last 10 months or so. And the investment in healthcare is in the order of 230,000 crores. And I'm sure the SME sector will benefit hugely from this investment that comes, and also the investment that is planned in infrastructure and things like that. Obviously, Siddharth mentioned the elements, some of the other key elements, but I'd like to touch upon one more thing that most MSMEs, especially the manufacturing sector, has been battling with, which is increase in input costs and the reduction in import duties that has come in both for iron, steel, copper, and some other stuff would definitely help, getting some raw material costs in balance as to what these manufacturing sector has been facing in the last 4 or 5 months. Very significant increase in raw material cost that would be balanced out by this reduction in import duty. So by and large, I would believe SMEs should and MSMEs should be happy about what has been put forth.
So there has been, from what the reading has been, there has been a better access to the funds for SME and MSME. So Siddharth, I would like to ask you this question. Now, there's also been some relief on the input costs for import duties for the iron and steel and copper, etc. So how do you think it's going to affect the market that ways?
So very clearly, we have limited number of copper, steel, or iron manufacturers, and they have a monopoly, right? Now, SMEs and MSMEs get squeezed from both sides. So let's just for a minute forget the budget. Let's just understand the business model of an SME. SME procures from a big guy, from a monopoly, from a heavyweight. It takes raw material from a big manufacturer. It does some value add, it sells it to another SME, that SME also does some value add, or this SME directly sells to another big guy. So both the big guys on the top, SME and MSME in the middle, squeezing. So let's take an example of a car. The brands which it supplies to are big, they are monopolies. The raw material which it procures to manufacture the product which it has to sell, the auto ancillaries, is also big. And they get squeezed from both sides. And I think this budget has eased the pressure on SME and MSME from both ends. First, about your question, from the supplier side, what happens? Because of the reduction in the import duty, I can go out, I can procure as per my choice if prices are competitive. Otherwise, I don't have to be held ransom by the domestic big boys. So that's clearly a message that MSMEs, you are important. You should have the luxury of choice. You can't be held ransom because of your size. So that's a very powerful message which I think Government of India has given to the MSME. So that's number one. On the other side, with the scrapping policy of the vehicles, of the private vehicles for 20 years and 15 years for the commercial vehicles, or even if you look at electrification of railways entire by 2023, or ensuring that most of the places there is alternate power supply or the distribution network option which is given to the end user. This will all mean that back end, which is the ancillaries, whether it is in the space of power, whether it is in the space of auto, whether it is in the space of railways, and these are huge budget outlays, right? 1,10,000 crores, 56,000 crores, so huge numbers. They have to rely on the back end. And if, because those big boys cannot manufacture these auto ancillaries, and today, if they want to make more money, they want the output to come from the auto ancillaries. So auto ancillaries will have a bargaining power because they want to increase their growth faster, and they can ask their own price. They can ask their own margins if they want to supply those products quickly. So I think this budget has helped in equalizing or neutralizing the power which the big boys on the supply side or on the demand creation side had. And this will play a great role for enhancing the quality of output, the financial strength, and then sustainability of the SMEs and MSMEs.
Mhm.
Last, just the last point here, I think the India for last 3,000 years has always been known for its textiles, and we never had organized textiles. If you look at India from 3,000 years back, when Alexander the Great came, took muslin, silk, cotton from India to Greece, and people craved, women there craved for the quality which was manufactured in India back then in small setups, julahas we used to call them. And since then it has been largely unorganized. But in so much so, in last, specifically after independence, we have seen slow death of the textile industry in India. I think these textile parks, 7 textile parks which Government of India spoke about, will surely and decidedly will bring prowess to the Indian MSME segment who are in the space of textile. So that will become a sunrise sector in India, where we have lost to our neighbor Bangladesh in a big way.
Right, right. So, Ratish, I would now want to ask you a question, since you also come from a background of being a chartered accountant. Now, there has been on the compliance front a change in the tax audit numbers and a dispute in the resolution of panel or small taxpayers. So, how does it look for them now with all of these changes?
So I think it's a very good question. From an MSME perspective and from a small business perspective, the fact that if I'm running a turnover of 1 crore and I need to get my business tax audited, moving that number further up is a significant change because I don't have to worry about these small little things. Now, the government also understands the fact that more and more businesses are getting under the GST regime. And once you are under a GST regime, a lot of things already are digitized and are in a place where, you know, your business is structured, and therefore the ability for the tax compliance structure to be loosened a little bit to help SMEs move forward and quickly, I think is a big positive step. You know, the dispute resolution panel for small businesses being set up also is a big thing. Right now, those dispute resolutions were only at a very large, large business levels. But this time, the government has clearly said that yes, we're going to have a dispute resolution panel for small businesses. The faceless, assessment of tax also is big and huge. That sort of gets you past, and if you're able to, electronically prove things, then you are able to quickly help the authorities understand what your position is and get past your income tax assessments. Obviously, the government this time in this budget has gone a step further and said that even the appellate tribunals would also go faceless. And if at all any attendance is required, it will be through video conferencing, which I think again is a significant step in basically digitizing the whole economy and taking, and especially the compliance structure, to the next level. So I would assume all those things are big. The fact that also, till yesterday, if you had to, you could be called upon and hauled up by the income tax guy because, 6 years back, they find something. Now they've crunched that time to 3 years, which is quite significant. You just have to maintain your records for 3 years, and after that, you're done. You are not to worry about what happened 4 years back about with your business, or anybody can come knocking saying 4 years back, where did you make this payment and what happened? So stuff like that really has made a huge difference and will make a huge difference in the SME and MSME entrepreneurs mindset, because it's all about the mindset as to what am I signing up for when I'm in this business. But
Thank you. So, Siddharth, also now there was the announcements that were made specifically to a few sectors here, and one of them was healthcare. So now there have also been benefits and a large healthcare package that has been announced. So can you tell us a little more about how that will go, and what is the package like first, and then how does it affect us?
So sure. So let me read out some numbers to you. What government spoke about is, for the healthcare infra and well-being, the outlay last year was 94,500 crores, which has jumped to 137% to 2,24,000 crores. Specifically, there would be 17,000 rural health centers which will be supported with infrastructure, 11,000 urban centers which will be supported by this. Now, the interesting part here is that most of this infrastructure for the well-being, and specifically they spoke about that the primary and secondary healthcare infrastructure would have an outlay of 64,180 crores. So just think about the incremental numbers. We are talking about 1,30,000 crores incremental as compared to the last year, this year, on the sheer infra of healthcare. Okay, now what does that mean? And what does that mean specifically for the SMEs and MSMEs? Large portion of this will be to monitor and check the health of the neighboring people who are around that health center. So think about the opportunities which it brings to the SME sector. So I don't know when is the last time before COVID you would have had a thermometer which does the laser gun, and it tells you your temperature. I don't think anyone in India before 2020 would have ever used it.
Never, ever.
COVID came. COVID taught us that every society, or in some societies, 5 of them, will have that thermo gun or thermometer gun, whatever you call it, right? Now that's a product which is not being made by the large corporates. It's being made by small corporates. And if the monitoring of the healthcare has to happen, these are some of the very few examples. Another example, diagnostic. Just to have diagnostic kits. So whether it is injecting the vaccine, you need a syringe. Now syringe is not manufactured. The syringe, the plastic. So syringe has got 5 parts, by the way. Syringe is not manufactured by one person. There's a plastic mold which is on the top, and then there's a plastic mold which is behind. There's a rubber, and then there is a syringe which is made of metal, right? So all these four components are not manufactured by one person. This is under a brand, procuring from 3 or 4 people. And all of this gives an opportunity to the SME to start manufacturing not in small quantums, but in bulk. If you can just make the rubber, the top part of it, which the syringe uses, and if you can make 50 lakhs, or if you can make 50 crores, they will fall short in number, right? So that's the kind of opportunity which it brings to the SME and MSME sector from the healthcare. Because remember, infrastructure already exists in India in the form of land, building, primary healthcare centers, whether it is in the rural areas, whether it is in the urban areas. What they are talking about is beefing up the infrastructure in terms of equipment, in terms of monitoring equipment, etc. And that's where small items which can be manufactured by millions of SMEs can be procured and put to good use, which will not only drive their growth, India's growth, but also improve the healthcare of the country. Because remember, the biggest demographic dividend of this country can only be achieved if education and healthcare is taken care of. And I think at the right time, because of COVID, not because of COVID, I don't know what transpired, but government finally has took cognizance of the fact that from Swachh Bharat, we also need to have Swasth Bharat.
That is true. That is very true. And I think this explanation has been quite useful. I've also never paid attention to actually how many parts go into a syringe making it. So, Ratish, I would like to ask you the same question and also want your inputs on the same as to how do you see this benefiting us this way in healthcare?
So I think Siddharth, of course, explained it beautifully, but I would just like to add a couple of more elements to it, and which is on the digital side. The fact that, if you go back and a year back, you had contacted your local physician that you are having temperature and what medicine can you take, what was his response would have been, please come to my clinic and I'll have a look, and then only I'll give you a prescription. But what has changed in these last 10 months is telemedicine. And that is where I think a whole bunch of things open up, both in terms of, I would just not put SMEs or MSMEs in focus, but also the startup technology that comes in putting all these telemedicine technologies, excuse me. I'm also looking at, when I see some companies looking at and using genome technology to look at, and then connecting it with AI, ML to see what are things that we can do, and these small companies can do to really build technology to help healthcare. And what that does is the ability to, for example, and that is where I think also to some extent the demographic dividend of India comes into play. Machines which learn how to read, an X-ray report, And once they've learned it 50,000 times over, they are able to actually give you almost an accurate response of what the doctors would expect from any other trained doctor. So stuff like that is changing healthcare, and that is where a whole bunch of opportunities will open up for the MSME and SME sector. Not only that, of course, these putting together the infrastructure itself uh, is not done by large corporates. It's all these SMEs that sort of really, they are the backbone of the country. The 63, 65 million SMEs that we have really are the backbone of this country. And that is what would take the country forward.
So on the same, since we are talking about healthcare, one more thing that I would now also like to ask here is that how is it looking like as in opportunities for business owners who are looking to either diversify or the players who are in the healthcare sector right now? What is the market going to now? I believe it will be all positive for them moving forward.
Well, pharma and healthcare is right now, and I'm sure Siddharth can talk more about because he's in the investment space. Pharma and healthcare right now are sunrise sectors. So, you just have to, if you're there, you're absolutely lucky to be there right now. And, you know, uh, I would say one should have their human hat on also, and not really worry too much about the amount of profits that you will make, but really worry about and really think of the benefit that you are flowing and giving back to the society at large as a pharma company or as a healthcare company. Because right now that is what the need of the hour is. But that need of the hour, and the more you give, I think will build your brand to take it forward and really sort of hold you well for the next half a decade or a decade. Siddharth, your thoughts?
Sure. So Ratish, I completely agree with you that the more you give, the more you will get, and that's the cycle of karma which will constantly keep going on. And I think, as you rightly said, Ratish, that today pharma sector is like, and especially after this budget, healthcare, pharma, related diagnostic sector, healthcare infrastructure, healthcare equipment, everything has just turned into gold, has just turned into gold. It does not matter which space you are in, whether from the bulk drug, from the generic drug to the vaccines, to the genome technology, to anything. The sheer demand, not only from India, but from the world, will be so humongous. And not only on the physical medicine side, but on the mental medicine, on the physio side, on your overall well-being, whether it is Ayurveda, whether it is homeopath, whether it is yoga, whether it is overall anything to do with human life per se and the quality of life, you have just touched gold. The only thing is needed, as Ratish rightly said, pay it forward, keep doing good work, and you won't even imagine the kind of money, irrespective of your size, whether it is small, big, large, it will flow in, because the demand is humongous. There's not even a single household in this world, and I'm daring to say this, which didn't go through a little bit of stress, little bit of tough times in last 10 months. Some people dealt it well, some people didn't do so well, but need and assistance is going to be needed for next at least half a decade for and from the healthcare segment.
So, Siddharth, another question that I would like to ask you is that the production linked intensive scheme and its impacts on MSME, what does it look like? What do you think, what would you say as an expert here in wealth advisory? How does it look like for the common people as well when we put this in perspective?
So I understand, Mansi, that production linked incentive structure was introduced by the government to ensure that Make in India happens
Mhm.
at a much faster pace, because not only you are making money by making profits and selling whatever you are producing, selling it at a higher price, making that margin, but government is incentivizing the corporates to set up units so that it generates employment, it generates adequate work in and around the factory, in and around the production unit, and it improves the livelihood and basic life quality for people around that production unit. So that was the premise on which the PLI scheme was started.
Mhm.
Then it moved to the agri segment, where if you produce more, then you tend to earn more and you will be rewarded for producing high quality, good quality, large quantum of grains or any agri items, whether it is fisheries, whether it is eggs, whether it is poultry, whether it is vegetables, etc.
Mhm.
This time around in this budget, what they are talking about is PLI, which will be impacting the SMEs and MSMEs. And I can't see a twin egg or a double benefit which will accrue to SME at this juncture. So think about it. I'm just taking an example. We have heard finance ministry speaking about local transit transportation system to be beefed up, and in that process 20,000 more buses will be procured in next 1 to 2 years time frame. Plus we spoke about earlier in the program about the scrapping policy of 15 years and 20 years. What does that mean? It simply means that whether it is large corporates like Telco, Ashok Leyland, or whether it is large companies like Maruti, whether it is Hero Honda, whether it is Honda, whether it is Hyundai, all of them would need to manufacture more cars to fulfill the demand which is going to come in immediate future, not in long term future, in immediate future. These again corporates do not manufacture themselves. They have to rely on the SMEs and the SMEs for the auto ancillaries. When these guys produce, not only they are getting higher margins because there is demand for their goods and services, but government is also giving them, if you produce more you will get more incentives. So it's a double benefit. So this is a place where SMEs which were in the vulnerable situation, if they act well, keep in mind, Mansi, if they act well, from a micro or a mini micro enterprise, they can actually become a small or a medium enterprise, and then eventually they can think about hitting the stock markets, raising the money, or being IPO'd. And that's the trajectory which this PLI has opened up for SMEs and MSMEs. Because double benefit: A, there is demand; B, the benefit from the higher production, which is production linked incentive. So your profitability suddenly jumps up, which means your valuation jumps up, which means you can now get and hit in the stock market, receive more money, and then invest in even bigger projects. And that cycle makes you from a micro to a large cap company. That's the journey which you can now start dreaming of in next half a decade to a decade.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. Ratish, sir, would you like to add to this?
I think Siddharth has summed up well, but just two bits. I think the PLI scheme was, I would say, and when the government said benefits to the tune of 146,000 crores will flow into the system. That's a huge number again. What that is also doing is, Siddharth mentioned automotive. Apart from automotive, the communication, the mobile manufacturing that is being pushed in India, and the healthcare and pharma are right now three sectors that PLI is very clearly focused on. Obviously, more sectors get added up as things go on. But really, I think the production link incentive scheme is a fantastic push by the government to focus on Make in India, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, Made in India, and stuff that sort of goes and flows along with it. I think I was reading recently that even with respect to the expats employed under the Atmanirbhar Bharat, they would be a relief on the personal tax issues and things like that. So there was some element there also. So the government is not just thinking from the business side, but also from the right people coming in to help the Make in India effort, so that we can get the right resources, the right human resources to make it really a reality and take things forward.
Mhm. So also that for someone, as you've worked with banks and you've helped them with their NPA, there is some mention around bad bank proposal. Can you throw some light on that?
I think I can talk a little bit, but probably Siddharth, who's an ex-banker, would probably talk more. But basically, the bad bank idea being that NPAs that are with the bank can be sold off to this bank, which then sort of put a structured way that they can resell those NPAs. And really, once you do that, you are able to at least clean up the bank balance sheets and move it to one place where this sort of bad bank really takes care of them in terms of selling them off going forward. Siddharth, I'm sure you'll add much more color commentary to this.
Sure. There are three formats by which so you understand what is a bank primary role is to raise money and then lend money. Now they do their due diligence, they do their checks and balances, they do their proper audit of it, but still there are cases where the loan or the borrower defaults. Now what happens when the borrower defaults? Very simple. Then the loan has to be written off. Whatever capital you have given to that borrower, it has to be written off. Now problem is, if you have lent to too many such people who are not able to repay you back, and when the business environment is tough, when the economy is going through tougher times, when the growth of the economy is slowed down. So let's assume there was COVID, right? The Indian economy saw in the first quarter, April, May, June, a negative growth rate annualized of closer to 23.9%, right? Negative growth. A lot of businesses unwillingly went under. They have raised money from the banks, they couldn't repay them. And hence this mechanism, so three-way mechanism is created. One is ARCs, asset reconstruction companies. Then you have got NCALT, and then you have got bad banks. Now these are all the three parallel mechanism to ensure that the liability or the future business prospects of the institution which has given the money does not go bad. And what does this bad bank do? As Ratish literally explained, it will transfer the asset, which is bad asset, at a valuation, taking a haircut on the valuation. It will give the balance money to the good bank. So that's one format. Or so bad bank is still not a reality in India. Or the second format could be very simple. The same company, so let's assume there is X bank and X bank has a X bad bank. So X bad bank will transfer the X good bank will transfer the bad asset in the X bad bank, and then X good bank will only have good assets, and because of that the capital adequacy, the valuations, the profitability will go up, and hence the market cap of the company or the valuations will go up. For the bad bank, it will raise money from the longer term debt and will put in some equity, which then can go to the borrowers, figure out if they have assets under the Sarfasai Act, they can resolve it, they can sell it in the market, or they can get into an amenable situation where they can publicly bid it into the market, and whosoever is the highest bidder. But all this is long process, and bad bank in turn also will make some money, but with a time gap. and that's how the valuations of the bad bank also will move up. So it's a good healthy situation. So that's one way. What also finance ministry spoke about is the ARCs, where where the loans can be transferred from the good bank to the ARCs. ARCs can house it and then immediately publicly bid it. What it will do transparency, it will bring transparency to the entire mechanism. And as the transparency comes in, whosoever bids the highest, that money will come to the ARC. Some portion is retained by the ARC and it can be passed on to the good bank, or there can be an arrangement between the bank and the ARC in principle on the haircut which they decide initially. Then the entire profits or loss will be borne by the ARC. So that's number two. Number three is banks straight take the borrower to the NCLT and say that I am attaching all the assets. All the borrowers have to take a haircut, and the court gives a verdict, a ruling, saying that whosoever is able to give the highest buck for the assets which have been pledged, they will be sold to that person, and the banks will take a haircut and receive the money. So these are three mechanisms. Government has already been running with the NCLT process for a long time, and which I mentioned, this budget talks about the NCLT process for the SMEs and MSMEs, which wasn't the case. So that's a welcome move. Second is transparent bidding by the alternate investment funds, AIFs, for the ARC's assets, asset reconstruction companies' assets. That's another welcome move, because it makes the entire process of dispute resolution or bad debts resolution much more transparent. And hence there cannot be corruption from the bank who has lent to the default recovery to the end exit. So all this has been made transparent. So in a nutshell, what government is trying to do is saying that there can be business challenges, there can be business losses, there can be change in the environment. And if you fail for right reasons, you have all the right to come back into the business absolutely clean. There will not be any witch hunting. So that's essentially the mechanism, benefit for SMEs and MSMEs, but for the large corporates also, it is a mechanism to ensure that you can fail to make a good business. You can fail 10 times and the 11th business can be a multi-billion-dollar business.
That sounds really positive for our the MSME and the small players as well. So I'm now going to start taking some questions that we've gotten from our audience. So first is, Ratish, I would like to roll this to you. How does the budget look like for the working professionals?
Well, I think from a personal tax angle, of course, I'm sure the working professionals would have quickly scanned. There is no change in tax laws. Having said that, the real issue is, as a working professional, what is my opportunity? And the fact that 3 months before from today, suddenly things were looking very dark. If organizations were thinking that, hey, there's going to be no salary change, there's going to be no bonuses, and whether do I have opportunity to take my career forward, all that suddenly 3 months back, it was like everything was dark and gloomy. I think this budget has shown that there's opportunity and the sunshine is right ahead around the corner. So I would say that professionals should look at that the government has taken the right positive move to build and create an economy that is going to look forward and build on itself. So that is where I think the real issue comes. So as a working professional, look for opportunities and build on your career is what I would say.
So, okay, now another question that we want. Business owners were looking forward to some waiver on loans. How does that stand now? I think, Siddharth, you can take up this question.
So I think the simple answer to this is, what government is saying that there are three things which have happened. A, the rate of interest, the borrowing rate or the lending rate. So I'm sure, Mansi, you would have seen that the FDs which you were getting in any of the banks a year back in January 2020 versus what you got in January 2021, they are 50% lower. The rates were at around 7%, now they are at 4%.
That's
Very clearly, when the borrowing rates for the financial institutions have gone down, their lending rates have gone down, and in turn, the borrowing rates for the end customer also has gone down. So what essentially means that the cost of the capital or the hit which you will be taking while borrowing the money has come down. So that's one benefit which the professional state gets, or the person gets. The second is about the waiver which you spoke about. Most banks today are okay to renegotiate. In fact, most of the NBFCs have given the moratorium for the compulsory period, and if you remember, there have been quite a bit of debate on the interest on interest, etc., and which has been clearly moved out. Right, there's a simple interest. So there has been quite a bit of cushion which government gave, and Supreme Court jurisdiction and Supreme Court verdict gave, where you had, if you didn't have income because of being a professional, because of the COVID, you face challenges, you didn't pay during that time.
right.
But today also, if you go and speak to your banker and explain the situation and ask for a little bit more moratorium, or a partial interest waiver, or a delay in the principal repayment and interest only servicing for next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, more and more bankers are amenable to it. More and more bankers are amenable to it. So I would not suggest that waiver of principal is the right mechanism, is the right way to do it, because you can't just have. So if I'm waiving the principal for a professional, why shouldn't I waive it for a corporate? Why shouldn't I waive it for an SME? Why shouldn't I waive it for an agriculturist? Now, if I waive some of them, how would the poor banker who slogged throughout because remember, banking and stock markets were essential services during COVID. They slogged throughout the 10-11 months of COVID period. He will also has to leave his job, because if he cannot receive the income, how would he be able to have his job? And if he won't have his job, it's a viral effect. So we are not in here to do waivers. The idea is if there is a genuine challenge, there can be deferment of your liability. Because until and unless we create a community, a society which respects credit, we will never be able to do business well. Keep in mind, we have come a long way from running a parallel economy, now having a totally white economy to a very large extent. And if we go back on the credit unworthiness, this white economy will take no time to turn into cash economy again, which will be detrimental not only for the individuals, for the genuine taxpayers, but for the country as a whole. So I would not encourage that should happen. If you have a genuine problem, go to your banker. Bankers are extremely open, and they would hear. Even the private sector bankers or the public sector bankers or even the NBFCs, all of them are happy to restructure if there is a rationale. But you have to approach. They should not knock your doors on recovery. So that's.
Thank you. That was a great point. I think people can make a note of this and also take advantage of this opportunity. However that it might be shaping up to be for them. So the last question for the day that we will take up. There's been some case of cess imposed on the petrol and diesel. However, government says that it will not impact the common man. How is that true? It's a very big question.
So government is right. So what government is changing is the petrol prices are not going to go up, diesel prices are not going to go up. This will replace the VAT. So some portion of the VAT will get reduced, and this duty, so this is in lieu of it. So the net impact will be nullified. So there won't be any change. So not incremental state taxes, whether it is central or the central. There won't be any incremental taxes. It will be a replacement of tax. So one tax will be known by another tax. That's all will happen.
Ratish, so would you like to add to this?
Yeah, so basically, when you close work today, your cost of commute to go home remains the same. No change.
No change.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think it's government mathematics
Mhm.
within the system.
Okay, so nothing to worry about. I mean, other than what we already worried about.
Yeah.
So, great, gentlemen. It was a lovely talk today. I think a lot of insights. I would just throw it back to you all for the final comments and some maybe, whatever you think is a good news to give to all of our audience today. Whoever would like to go first.
I think after many years, I sort of really sat down to listen to the entire budget. And probably because there was a lot of, how is the government going to respond? And I think the first statement that Honorable Finance Minister talked about when she said our focus is going to be healthcare, really think that was a big, bold step given the current situation. Also, putting in 35,000 crores towards vaccines, again, is a big positive step from the federal government. And of course, the stock markets are up, which tells you that most people understand that this is the right budget and this is the right approach that the government has taken. It is a challenge for the government right now to get the funds. I believe the government has very clearly accepted the fact that there is going to be fiscal deficit close to 9.5%, which is again a significantly higher number, but at least they were bold enough to accept that fact. And they've said that it'll take us to pull it back to 4.5% over 3 to 4 years, which is again, they're very pragmatic about it. It's not about the fact that, hey, next year, 2022, we are going to fix it. No, it's not going to be fixed. It is, the pandemic has taken its toll and we will take time to get everything behind it. But having said that, I think the Honorable Finance Minister has played a brilliant balancing budget, to my knowledge.
So my final comment would be targeted specifically to SMEs and MSMEs, because this budget says a very simple statement by Samuel Johnson. He says, great work is performed not by strength. Great work is not performed by strength, but by perseverance. And this is a clear and loud message which the government of India has given to our 6 crore plus SMEs and MSMEs. Go out, work. There is nobody who's going to squeeze you, tamper with you, pin you. You go, do your hard work, conquer the world, and make history.
Nice. Great words to end our today's session on. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. I think it was wonderful to have you all here. And I hope that this year brings more luck to all of us than what it was in the previous year for us. And so here I would like to close this session, and I hope that you all stay safe. And for our audience, I hope that you all got some insights. Maybe we were able to answer most of your questions, or some of your questions at least. And so have a great year ahead, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.